Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I titled this message New Year, New Agendas, and New Drama. New Year, New Agendas, and New Drama. So, we've already seen in media all sorts of change. If you've been on this planet long enough, you see that things are not the way they used to be. No, you cannot say whatever you want to say. No, you cannot write whatever you want to write. No, you cannot discipline your children or grandchildren in the way that you were disciplined. Just in case some individuals had a run-in with the law, you learn that. No, you cannot go and pretty much start up a war when it comes to racism, sexism, or anything that you might think, well, yeah, this is something that goes along with the programming out here, and so I'm going to bring, this to so-and-so's attention, and then you find out that there are certain rules, and there are things that you have to say or do, and, well, maybe what you thought was racist or sexist. Well, you see, the rules are different depending on who is in charge. And for some of you all, you learn that. You also learn that relationships are a lot different, aren't they? And that in your mind, what you have traditionally saw relationship, marriage, and so forth to mean to you, what you've learned from the scriptures, not the thing that you are accustomed to or used to. And then, oh, dare you speak up or speak out against, and it doesn't go along with the current agenda, the latest trend, you are canceled. So new year, right? New agendas and new dramas. Technology is growing in leaps and bounds. Just when you thought you knew something, then along comes something else that they create. Right now, at the time of this recording, there's the development of an app that's going to do everything. That's the plan. Elon Musk is behind that, while the media is zeroing in on everything related to Twitter. He's got a whole bunch of projects behind the scenes. And with every piece of technology, you will have to give more information about you, about your household. With more technology, you're going to find yourself having to give up so much that for some of you all, you're going to get to a point where you're just going to cap off. I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to visit that website. I'm not going to spend my money on this, you see. And you'll try to look for all sorts of workarounds until you get to a point where something that you really need from a store, something that you bought that requires all sorts of information. You saw this over the years, You bought a computer, and at one point you could buy the computer and you didn't have to put all sorts of information into the computer. And, you just went on about your business. Well, now, of course, you get a computer and you can't move on past certain windows without plugging this information and plugging that one, you see. So for some of these stores, it's not going to be the way you've always known it to be, especially if it's high-end goods. Some of the measures have already taken place when you saw the gang sweeping that was going on in some of these retail stores and so forth. They came up with yet another way to keep people from snatching things off of racks and so forth, because they can't afford to experience major losses like that. You also notice that when the pandemic was ushered in, there was this business of essential and non-essential. You know, you can have too much of a so-called good thing. How many restaurants do you really need? How many clothing stores do you really need? You know, how many of anything that people don't typically walk into to purchase on a regular basis do you really need? And so a lot of the non-essential businesses, hey, sink or swim, you see. Nope, you're not going to keep writing this off as a business loss. We want you to just simply shut it all down. And there's more ahead, you know, give you an opportunity to recover from all of what you've been through the past few years. And then, voila, we're going to come up with some more stuff for you, says the establishment. Okay. When you see that there is someone who does something in media and it makes you go, why would you even, you're so dumb, you're so stupid, or what have you. Everything is by strategic design. Okay. You have your opinion on the surface, but behind the scenes, people are doing some things in order to usher in new agendas. So if I want to break my alliance, I want to break my tie, I want to break my connection, I may say something or do something to bring a bunch of attention to myself. And then when I've got your attention, okay, now you're going to hear what I really want to say. Now you're going to start to process, start to think about what I've been trying to tell you. I remember saying to the Lord, I said, you know, sometimes the only way that you can get through to people is you've got to create chaos. Sometimes the only way that you can really make people listen to you is you've got to do something that will make their mouths drop. Sometimes the only thing that God can do when individuals repeatedly turn away from him because he knows their heart is, oh, well, you leave me no choice but to cause some people to pass away around you. Because I tried to talk to you. I wanted to make it easier for you, but I guess I got your attention now that this person is gone, that person's gone. You can no longer take from this one. You can no longer get the information that you needed. It's interesting how your voice goes a lot longer, a lot stronger, reaches a bigger audience when you're gone. And so for some individuals, they know in higher establishments, in, elitist groups, they know who your favorites are. They know who you respect because they've surveyed you, right? They gave you gift cards. They gave you some change here and there, and they know how to play the pawns in the game in such a way so that you will go ahead in a weak moment and accept whatever they roll out. A lot of the people who had spearheaded movements over the years had plenty of sense, had big platforms, were up in age. And many of those freedom fighters, civil rights movement type of individuals, when that pandemic showed up, many of them lost their lives. And they painted all sorts of pictures out there to make it look like. But that didn't sit well with me. It still doesn't sit well. I know there's a God. I talk about him quite often on this channel. And I know that some people didn't just leave off this planet in the way that media put out. They were still pulling the strings behind the scenes. They were still making some things happen. They were serious think tanks. And they were also slowing down progress. And they were putting a lot of things out there that had long been out there that the newer generation doesn't want to continue to be put out there. And some of what our elders had said and did, and some of the programming they put out there, and their anger and their, just frustration with, racism and, inequality and how women are treated and all of that. Well, the new generation, they get tired of hearing all of it, and then they question, well, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, what sort of things are you doing now? It's not as bad as it once was. Wouldn't you agree that the reason why some individuals are not getting ahead is simply because they don't have the desire, they don't have the drive? I don't think it has anything to do with racism. I know some of you all have heard that sort of thing. You see, and, women have made big strides. So I don't understand, what is this fight that you all continue to, promote? And it seems like, if anything, there's a lot of putting down men and, making men look bad and, all of that. One evil doesn't deserve another evil. You don't answer evil with evil. So, it went from men were putting women down and all of this, and now you guys are turning around. So you see, there's those that are younger that see this sort of thing playing out. And so they go, you know what, let's just do away with, these old agendas. And these people are getting older, and, they're going to have their share of health ailments or whatever. So, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, you and your old agendas and your, But the thing is that you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, some individuals, no matter what you say to them, they're going to still stand strong in their beliefs. But their insight, their observation, their discernment, their years of experience, they've been on a planet long enough to see the same old foolishness play out. They were the ones who were alerting us to some foolishness. They were the ones who were speaking out against what the bigger picture is. They were the ones who saw the evil that was being done and how certain elitist groups were getting their pockets padded as a result. So, yes, we want change. Yes, we want some things to be different. That's going to make life better for all of us. But at the same time, though, we need to have our watchers. We need to have those individuals that we've seen this all before, and we know what you're doing, and we don't like it, and no, it's not a conspiracy. We saw this before. And that's the thing. When you've been on the planet and you've seen the same strategies play out, and you can go right back to when it was 1960 something and they tried this, and when it was 1980 something and they did something similar, and the programming that they use with all of the different sitcoms and movies, we saw it, and they're doing the same thing. They don't want people like us who've already seen the same strategies time and time again being played out when they want to introduce something new, and we say, we see it, we hear it. They don't want us around. Because what you're going to do is you're going to make those people think. You're going to make those people question. They're going to say, no, we don't want to take this. We don't want to do this. We're going to protest. We're going to, you see, and they're even trying to take that away too. We're going to get out there before they even act like they're going to organize, before they even, put a sign up. We're going to be 2 steps ahead because we're making all this stuff free this way. And when I say stuff, we're talking about all of the different publishing platforms, free trials, or some of them just remain free. They got specials that come out, discounted software, all of that. Why? During key times, because there are those aspects that's going to take a look at what you're producing, and they're going to be many steps ahead before you even roll out whatever it is that you plan on putting out there. I know some of you all aren't activists, but there are those who are, or you know some. How did they know that this is what we were organizing? Well, did you use a mainstream platform to produce that material? Is your material on a OneDrive or on an iCloud? Is your computer one of those latest ones where it can be easily tracked, easily picked up? So they know what you're up to. They know what you're planning. The cloud, back this past summer in Nope, that cloud was right over in the movie Nope, and I did put an audio message up about that. You know, she's fighting with a cloud. There was more said than meets the eye, and she destroyed that cloud. So if you didn't see it, oh well, sorry, spoiler. You know, you putting things up there in the cloud, you need to be putting up the types of things that, nobody knows what the right hand is doing. When we have these individuals who are coming up with all sorts of plays, okay, they sit back, they plan, they know what the strategies are. It's just like playing football, basketball, what have you. You got coaches, you got all sorts of people on a team. They're coming up with the different strategies, the plays. Okay, if we put this out, how is the public going to respond? When we get ready to start shutting off some things and ushering them into some new things, what is going to be the end result? Okay, what could possibly go wrong? And how do we rebound from the situation? How do we fix it? You see, so all of these things are thought. Okay, how do we spin the media so that in case we get some of the ones who are discerning, who do pay attention, and they start on their platforms talking about, this isn't working, this is nothing but the devil's work, this is bad, this is going to kill you. You know, we got to make sure that we shut them up. So what do? You know, and for some of you all, it was finding fault with your platform. It was shutting things off, shutting them down. It was creating technology issues. I remember I worked for one tech company, and there was call after call. People were talking about, did you guys experience some type of outage? You know, we're having an issue on our end. And then the next thing you know, I noticed there was just a pattern of just the same old tech issues that were coming up. And I said, that's all by design. And this happened to be all the major platforms that were responsible for people's websites, small businesses as well as large businesses. I said, that's by design. There's no way. No way. See, if it's just 1-2 calls, right? Yeah, it might be you didn't pay your bill. But when you got call after call after call, that's bigger. That's bigger than just, you know, that company that you've got your hosting with, you know, or you got your domain with or what have you. Something's up, you see. Someone, I remember another company I worked for, people were calling in and they were talking about, yeah, we've got this outage, you know, electrical outage. And a lot of the folks were warning people about there's going to be electrical outages in different areas. And it was interesting leading up to these electrical outages and these storms that were showing up and all this other stuff. The elders that were living in those different communities that had been calling about all these issues, they were the ones who had also been receiving calls about their homes being asking if they wanted to sell their homes. And one lady was so upset, she was crying on the phone. And I stayed on the phone with her for a little while because she said that, I know what they're trying to do. They're after my house. After I told them I didn't want to sell, now suddenly mysterious people showing up around my house, messing around with my, you know, lines, you know, then having these electrical issues, and then there was other things that was happening with her house. And she said, I've been living in this house for over 30 some years. I've never had all these problems come at once like this. This isn't right. And they all showed up right around the time when they were calling and asking me, did I want to sell my home? And then I said, well, did you talk to other people in the community? She said, yeah. And I asked her, if they were around her age, and she said yes. I said, well, that's obvious. They want the land. They want the land. And they've been having issues too? Oh, yeah, absolutely. They want you out of there along with your whole community, you see. And of course, all of what was going on in that area, that didn't make any news. You got to talk to locals, boots on the ground, you see. There were some other things that were going on around the time. When everybody was at home, stay at home, don't go out and all that. Lots of construction work was going on. I was one of the so-called essential employees. So wherever I drove, there were contractors. There were construction workers that were working on all sorts of projects. Okay? And you got to do your research to find out what those projects were that were happening around your community when they told you to stay home. And so all these new projects, they were ushered in, and people were talking about, this isn't working right. And then I'm starting to get these headaches and my stomach hurts. And, it was just a lot of stuff going on. But, anytime you started talking about, well, I think it has something to do with what they, put up, what they built. No. Now, you didn't have any problems all before, you see. And then there were some other things that I noticed was because there was another company. See, God, he had me on a move. There was another company, because mind you now, there was tech company, there was housing, real estate, there was contractors related to fixing homes and so forth, and then there was nurses. And the nurses were telling me about what was going on in the hospitals. And some hospitals that you all thought, oh my goodness, all the beds were filled up and they were just emergency after emergency and all that. That wasn't true. Some of our nurses that we sent out there, nope, empty beds. That's why they had time to put up TikTok videos and everything else. But media was saying something different. And I said, out here, they're saying that you guys are so busy. I said, that's not correct. I think they got the wrong hospital. I said, no, they're saying that you guys are really busy. And that wasn't true for some of those hospitals. Now, there were others. And then I said, well, then what's going on? They're saying that it's the dreaded sea, blah, 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 blah. And they said, no, this is a little bit of everything. We got all sorts of stuff, accidents. We've got, people who are sick from other things. A lot of our numbers have to do with, the typical emergency room types of issues. But then there were nurses that were saying, they're telling us to call everything COVID. Now that was disturbing. And we were like, what? So yeah, these were some serious things that were going on. And so if you could see that back then of all of the uprising and the changes and, the strange situations that were going on, and then the push to do more. Okay, it wasn't enough to do the one thing, but now we want you to do the second thing and the third thing and the fourth thing. And you guys, you can connect the dots. You know what I'm talking about. And so then there was this influx of issues that were happening as it related to some of these things. Okay, remember, I dealt with boots on the ground. I don't deal with mainstream media like that. I don't. I dig for my news, and I encourage many of you all to do the same thing, because what appears in mainstream media later on always proves to be the great lie, or the exaggeration, or the cover-up, or the secret. You're on this planet long enough, you see it play out over and over and over again. After a while, you start to recite some of what the what the reporters say, because you've heard the same words. some of you all. I know that you want to believe everything that you see because you saw it, but you got to get out of that mindset. You see, some individuals are being kept around, and I say this lightly, but they're being kept around because they're good at sharing misinformation. They're good at that old mentality of believe what you see in the news. You know, it's good information. Why would they tell you a lie? See, they like that sort of ignorance. So they keep those sorts of people around because then some of them are good at just spreading everything around. That's false. And keeping you from digging. You don't need to go anywhere else and look at anything. You just look at the stations. And back in the day, where we used to get so-called the truth about everything related to current events was Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 11. Those were the three big stations back in the day for news. And you better not say anything different either. You see. Because the news said it. So, yeah, and that's why there's these groups that are being established that, okay, while you're talking about fact checked on this article and fact checked on that one and all this other stuff, now we got organizations that are saying, okay, that's great, but we're going to fact check you. So if you put out there that all of this stuff is going on over in a community, we're going to make sure that we talk to family members and friends and boots on the ground to make sure that this is in fact what's going on. And then if they're not paid handsomely or getting some kind of benefit for spreading false information, then we'll get the truth. No, they're exaggerating. Like I told you with the nurses, they're like, what? They said, what about our hospital? Oh, yeah, turn on the news. I remember another thing. I was out there boots on the ground in CA, California, SoCal. And I was catching the bus every day. So I'm right there, boots on the ground, walking up and down streets in LA County. And we had a series of wildfires. And they were saying, oh, they're spraying all day and night, putting out fires. That wasn't true. They weren't spraying water all day and night. Okay. There was a certain time every day that they stopped putting water out on the fires. Certain time. And it was like somewhere around like 5 o'clock or some 6 o'clock. It was almost like it was just weird in one particular area. It was just like you clock into work and you clock out. And I'm looking and I'm still seeing flames burning. And I'm saying to myself, this is odd. Because the news was saying that, oh, this is happening, that's happening. I'm looking right out my window. I'm right there. And then I'm going to the bus stop. And, of course, the smoke and everything's getting in my doggone lungs. And I'm saying, where are the planes? And other people, I was asking the bus driver, I was asking people who lived up in that area. And they were saying they went home. They've been doing that. But the fires aren't out and they could rotate. They could be getting, like shifts, They do it with mail. They do it, with manufacturing, warehouses and so forth. So I don't understand why is there this long gap of time where nobody is going up there to put no water, And of course, they're not reporting any of this. All they're reporting is working day and night. And then we noticed that there were markings in certain areas. It was as if they were just strategically marked prior to. Now, I shouldn't say been there, because leading up to, there were markings before those fires had taken place, which we thought was odd. Why is there markings? And in those same markings was where the fire showed up. Now, you put that together. Sometimes strange things have a way of happening. What was the plan? Why was it even happening? Were there some problems in those different areas? Maybe with all sorts of rodents or bugs, or maybe it was an environmental issue of some sort. And that's when folks were saying that was planned, that was by design. Don't know the rhyme or the reason, you see. So you got to dig for news. You got to talk to people who know a thing or two. And those that are still above ground that can tell you, okay, here's what's happening right now. Because we saw this back in 1960, whatever. And we saw this when I was growing up. And here's what they do. Okay? You listen closely to people who've lived on this planet long enough. And then there are those individuals, though, that you can't listen too closely to because, hey, they're paid. They're paid to put all sorts of information out there to get you to think something different. And so with these agendas that are ahead, it's going to be the same rollouts. We've got to create a group of individuals who fear, okay? And they're going to be worried. They're going to be concerned. They're going to be like, oh my gosh. So they're the ones who's going to believe everything they see in the news. They're going to then tell their daughters, sons, grandchildren about what they saw. Then daughters, sons, and grandchildren are going to be more likely to believe because that's mom, that's dad, that's grandma, that's granddad. Then they'll be more likely to accept and do whatever we tell them to do. Then we're going to have that group that's going to question everything. You know, those critical thinkers, the skeptics, the cynics. So we got to be able to convince them. Now, if they are desperate for some cash, lost some jobs, things like that, might be able to, win them, So we'll come up with something for them. We'll also come up with some things to show them the benefits and get some statistics, and get some case studies out there to win their trust, to win their favor. And then even use some of their favorite celebrities, and even some reboots of their favorite movies. Make them feel good. Put them at ease. And I mean, every group under the sun, there's always a script. There's always a way to handle them, you see. And then you talk about the things that people believe in, right? The things that define them, their identity. We got to win those folks, So we got to win, for instance, the black people and all of what they like and what they agree with and their favorite celebrities and, their favorite music. And then we've got these folks over here, and they like to talk a lot about their sexual identities and so forth, and we've got to win them. And then, we can't forget about the mothers, because the mothers are going to talk to the fathers when they get home from work, or the stay-at-home dad who's going to talk to his wife when she comes home from work. And, we want to win those breadwinners, and we want to win those young people with disposable income because, they're going to help pad our pockets, build our businesses. And so everybody has a script that they are going to listen to and that we're going to be prepared for their rebuttals. And so when the agendas roll out with regard to technology, once again, always technology. Technology is a lowercase g of God. And then there will be other agendas with regard to religion once again, because we still got those people out there that they're slowing down progress because of their morality. Got to win those folks. So we got to make sure that we talk with the ministers and the deacons and any other leadership and, give them some money to help with the cause. And then they'll probably be on board and start having some sermons that we can be able to promote what it is that we want through those sermons. So no, sorry, but those churches with those big platforms aren't trustworthy, never have been. You know, I noticed years ago that when there were certain things happening in news, they always pulled out sermons that were parallel to the news, and it was all by design. So that's when I realized, oh, these sermons, they may have once, at one point been about some things related to God, by pulling out his scriptures, of course. But the timing at which they created those sermons, what they came up with, nah, that's worldly. And it correlated or was parallel to whatever was happening in current events. And you can hear that all the time with the faith-based Christian stations, the ones that are talking about something that has nothing to do with mainstream media, the news, current events, but everything to do with your soul. Okay, yeah, God, he was involved with that. But then some of these other things, sorry, coincidence? Wow, it's such a coincidence that the church is talking about this. I guess God is moving on the church to talk about this while, these things are happening in media. Well, we'll pray about it. Well, I thank you so much, as always, for taking time out to listen. Yes, be on the alert for these sorts of things. Business, of course, I cannot leave, right? The message without mentioning that, yes, the business agendas, right? Small business, large business, taxes, always a topic of conversation. How to make more money on top of money. And then how to, of course, do away with some of these businesses that have been around for a long time and they have monopolized on, the markets. Well, yeah, there's plans to get rid of some of those that we've seen for many, many years and reboot them under different names. Yeah, lots of that going on as well. So be on the lookout, and also be on the lookout in terms of your money too, because with all the change, somewhere along the line, there will be those that'll make plenty of money and others who won't make so much because you didn't pay attention to, and you didn't dig for your news. So dig for it. Okay, talk to people who work for the establishments. Okay, insiders, whistleblowers, people like that. Check for people who are disgruntled by the companies that you invest in. You'll be surprised at what you'll find out. Thank you once again, as always, for taking time out to listen. You've been listening to YouTube nmenterprise7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and we do welcome giving, and thank you in advance. Blessings to you.